Well, amen, and welcome to all of us Aging with Grace people. I prefer to call it Maturing with Purpose. We renamed the lesson. I know we're all aging, but maturing just sounds more lovely or something. I'm Caron Vassallo, for those of you who don't know me. And we have a lovely panel of ladies here that you're going to hear from about maturing with purpose. There's many things I was thinking about. Welcome, by the way. It's so great to have you here. And take a look around right now at each other. There's quite a few of you, and that's probably not even half of how many there are in the region, maybe a third. There's getting to be many more of us over the years, the grey hair and all those things. But, how many of us love ageing? I do. In a lot of ways, I do not like ageing. And the things that it brings with us, the wrinkles, gravity kind of does a few things that you don't really want it to do. And this, what happens to this? My husband finds this in his meals quite often at home, and he's not very happy about that. I was telling a few of the ladies yesterday who remain nameless, a few ladies who had a few extra bits growing from here. I'm not going to say anything about who that was. Those things happen when you get older, right? A few little chinny chin hairs and a few things like that. And I remember going to the hairdressers, and they do like a beauty part to the hairdressing thing, and so I get my eyebrows, it's really painful. Those of you get it threaded, that is just painful. Anyway, that's okay. Mary Bell is my threading person, and she said, "So that's good. We've done your eyebrows. What about your moustache?" I'm like, "Excuse me? What do you mean?" I said, "What moustache?" I said, "No, thank you, because as soon as you do that, it's going to grow back even more and more and more." So she didn't touch my moustache, which I don't actually think I have. So please don't come looking for it after the class. It's not. I don't think it's there. But every time, "How about your moustache?" I'm like, I don't think I'll be seeing Mary Bell too much more often. But the biggest thing for me is forgetfulness as I get older. I am just shocking. I forgot my lesson. I left it in the men's class. I don't even have my phone today. Actually, I've forgotten it's down here, so. It's not even my phone. It's actually Mary has. I forgot my phone in my Bible. It's down at Penny's house. Too many senior moments. And so I know one day I lost my keys a few months ago, and guess where I found them? You'll never guess. Yeah, in the spinach in the fridge. Well, you're cooking and your keys get lost on the bench, you're baking, and then you don't use all the spinach, so you just pick up a fridge. So we were looking for a day, and I found it in the spinach. My husband was not fired up. But there's a lot of great things that come with aging. The wisdom that we grow in God with, the journeys that we've been on. Oh, mic up? Okay, can we hear better now? Is that better? Yeah. So there's a lot of great things about wisdom as well. I feel more myself, whatever that is, now that I'm 60. I feel so much more myself, and I'm enjoying this phase of life, being a grandma, a mother-in-law, all of those things. I wanted to give you a few quotes about aging, just a couple before we start. It's J.K. Rowling. I don't think it's J.K. Rowling, but anyway. It says, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." We are not those women. We don't want to be those women. Women grow radical with age. One day, an army of us grey-haired women may quietly take over the earth. Not so quietly for some of us. That was Gloria Steinem. As I said, look around. There's going to be more of us in the future. And we have so many gifts and stories and journeys to share. And one day, I know we've discussed as the panel, many more of you will get to sit up here and tell us your stories of overcoming health, all sorts of things, children issues, situational issues. You'll be up here to share with us. So we the world has not heard the last of us yet. And especially men and women in the kingdom have not heard the last of us yet. So much wisdom in this room. So many more stories to tell, so many more lessons to learn. We are still evolving. Doesn't matter what age. I make so many mistakes. And you can just ask anyone in the room. I make so many mistakes, but you know what? I'm still learning as well. And that's great as well. I love to still learn about all sorts of things. And so my journey is not yours over yet. So today, great team of women sharing a special nugget each. And I'm going to start us off with one little nugget just briefly that I have learned in life over the last 35 years as a disciple. Will and Chelsea came down recently to Melbourne, and we had brunch with them, and they asked both Mike and I, my husband Mike, what is the one thing that has kept you going in ministry? Obviously we're in the ministry, but we're all in ministry, right? What is the one thing that's kept you going over time, through the hard times, the challenging times, the family issues, the church not doing this and that, or whatever, conflict, relational conflict, unforgiveness, whatever. What has helped keep you going? And I thought it would take me a long time to answer. But I said, do you mind if I share you a scripture? And so I'm going to share what I shared with them at brunch. Proverbs 3:3-4. This is one of my favourite verses. I love the Proverbs. It says, let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. So you will find favour and good success, or good name, in the sight of God and man. Isn't that what we want, ladies? That peace, that we want a good name in front of our friends and our people and our husbands. But we also want a good standing before God. And if I can have that, I'm going to be a happy woman, you know. I want to keep that. And I have to bind love and faithfulness around my neck and write it on my heart and etch it in, because I forget to be loving. I forget sometimes to be faithful. Faith, I want to have that inspiration, I'm sure you do too, to keep going to the end and never, ever, ever give up. If we can inspire someone, one of those young Christian ladies, or even the brothers, I have given input to the brothers, don't I? Not too kindly sometimes, but you know, that mature wisdom, that insight, that is faith. Faith is nothing without love. You know, one thing I've learned growing older is that I'm not in control. I love to be in control. I want to be in control, but I'm actually not in control. You know, I can't control what happens to my family. I can't control what happens to people who want to become Christians and then leave God. I can help. I can get in there and offer a word of love and wisdom from the scriptures, but I can't control it. I can't control how many people fall away. I can't control my own health at times. At the moment, I'm a little bit with the fairies, with Codral, but that's okay. But I can control being loving and faithful. I am in control of that. I can try and love someone when I'm with them. I can look into their eyes and really try and help. And the great thing is in Philippians 1:9-10, it talks about love gives us depth of insight. If you love someone, you'll find a way to help them, whether it's serving, whether it's going to their house and doing chores, whether it's just a word of wisdom, whether it's encouragement, whether it's speaking the truth, which sometimes I hate because it's painful. But if it's that, love has many different facets, like the face of a diamond. And so I know love finds a way into someone else's heart. And if I can do those two things, I'm going to be a happy woman, and God will do the rest. I'll have a good standing before him, and many women, hopefully, like you can help, will be helped. And the other thing about love in Corinthians, it never fails. So if I can keep being faithful and keep being loving, it'll cap over everything. And you know, then we're set free, because we know we've done our best. We may not be able to control the results, but we have done our best in love and faith. So I just wanted to share that with you. And now Robbie's going to come up. And we know Robbie from many years. So many words of wisdom. And she's from Sydney. And she's going to share at least one nugget. Yes. Maybe two.
I feel like, oh dear, is that working? I need a box, don't I? Fancy following Caron. Well, hello everybody. I'm amazed at the number of you in the room. And what's more, I'm amazed at the age of some of you. Surely you should be down in the children's class. I've been around for so long. In fact, my name is Robyn Boughton, for those who don't know me. And forgive me, I do have to read this. I tried to learn it, but that's one of the ageing problems, my memory. Oh, and the deforestation daily. But anyway, I've been a disciple for 40 years, and it is a miracle. But God has been with me daily. He's never let me down. He's my best friend. And he's allowed me to live here for 76 years. So I'm hoping for, a few more. That'd be great. And I am elderly, and I finally owned it. I went red for about 10 years because I wasn't coping. But now I'm quite happy and accepting. Anyway, that acceptance goes along with accepting all the challenges that have come along and embracing those actually and learning to pull into them, lean into them rather than push them away. And I know that like everyone else in this room, that's the common experience of life, that suffering is something that we don't want to live through and live with. It's hard. But I'm sorry to say, it is part of life. And anyway, I just thought that I would describe myself, first of all, as friendly. I guess I'm friendly. But I am impetuous. I do things rashly sometimes. I'm often independent. And I'm sometimes even mean. But most of all, I'm faithful. And to God, I've persisted in believing his promises and just hanging on to those. I can't imagine where I'd be without God and the people that he's put in my life. I'll just share with some of the hardships that I've lived with and still live with. My husband and I have been married for 55 years. And so for the first 15 years, I wasn't a disciple. But then when I became a disciple, life became much harder because he actually turned away from God. And that hasn't been easy. He suffered a traumatic brain injury 14 years ago. So he's lost some cognition, which has added another extra little interesting dimension to our relationship and to life. My 4 children, although they were raised in the church, have all turned away from God. And I like to think temporarily, they're all prodigal sons and daughters. And last of all, my mum reached 102 years of age last year. But I see her sliding into dementia. Now, all of these things may be common to some of you, and some of you may be suffering in other ways that are far more traumatic. And I acknowledge that. All of you have different circumstances and situations, but I've been asked to share with you how I've remained faithful through the years, through life's circumstances. And so all I can say is that nugget is, for me, John 8:31 and 32. And it's, Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you are really my disciples, you will hold to my teaching. Then you'll know the truth, and guess what? The truth will set you free. And that's what I hang on to. It's basic. I have nothing new to say. It is that simple. And it's daily. And what I really want to say to you is it's choices. You wake up every day and you make choices, just as I do. And I have to make the choice to trust God. And I'm a bit like Caron. I'm very, want to be in control. But I have to acknowledge I can't be. I'm not in control of all the circumstances in my life. God has shown me that in many ways, over many times. But I sometimes choose to doubt him. I sometimes choose to question him. And that's the wrong choice. And I have to choose to obey him rather than rebel, which is in my nature. I am a rebel and I do want to go my own way. I have to choose to be courageous, to be brave, like Joshua was told, be brave and courageous. But I don't want to be. Just let me run away. But that's a daily choice. And I just want to share with you, the older you get, it doesn't get any easier. You like to think it might, but it doesn't. And so I hang on to some of these scriptures. You might like to just quickly jot them down because I'm not going to read them all. Psalms 94 and 62. They hold those three words that I cling to all the time, that God is my refuge, that God is my rock, and that he's my rest. Yes. And I go back to those time and time again. And Psalm 46:1, he's my ever-present help. He's my help. I can't help myself. And through prayer, even though I don't want to sometimes, that's the only way I can access his strength. He superimposes that into me, my weakness. And then the godly friendships that he's given me. My goodness, I'll share with you an example from my life. About 20 years ago, in my sinful nature, one obstacle, we all have obstacles to wanting to do the right thing. One of my obstacles is my tendency to run away or to want to deny. I'm an idealist. I want to have the happy ending. I don't want to acknowledge the truth. I want to live with the the knight in shining armour. I want that dream, but the reality is very different. And so I was having lunch with Louise Parrott in Chatswood one day, and something came into my mind. I thought, I think I have to share this with Louise. I said, you know what? When we finish lunch, I'm running away. She looked at me and she said, well, I might come with you. Let me just ring Richard. Before I know it, she's on the phone to Richard. Rob's running away. Oh, great. Now I'll have Richard on my case. Can I go with her? Yeah, sure. So we go by her place, pick up a bag of stuff, get in the car and we say, oh, we can't go without letting Diane know what we're doing. So get on the phone to Diane. Well, you're not going without me. She said. They're the kind of friendships you need. They came away. We did. We went away for the whole weekend. And I'll never forget it. We got into the scriptures without condemnation, without judgment. And we prayed together. And we had fun and we laughed together. We found that little key, laughter and having fun together. And then God just gets in there with the truth and he gives you the strength and he gives you you can get through it. And so that was my little nugget of, your friends are a special gift God has given you. Your spiritual friends, whether you want to be honest or open with them or not, is your choice. It goes back to those choices again. And I have to choose to be courageous. I have to confess to you that some nights I go to bed and I don't want to go to sleep. And I'm staying up and I'm watching telly, or I'm reading a book, or I'm playing a game on my device. I'm thinking, why am I doing this? It's now 11, it's now 12. What is wrong with me? And then this little voice says, you know what? You actually don't want to face the next day. I'm trying to put it off because when I know when I wake up, the reality is the same. Nothing is going to change. And you know what? Perhaps it never will. And I'm getting to a place where I can accept that because God is with me. No matter what happens in my life, he will be with me. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is that I do continue to have hope for my children, for my husband, for my family, because God is a God who loves to do the impossible. Nothing's too hard for the Lord. I can hold on to that. I can have hope. And my situation may never change, but I'm resolved to fix my eyes on Jesus and to hold on to that word, that first scripture I shared with you, and be able to look forward to that day when I meet him and he says, well done, good and faithful servant. Come and share your master's happiness. Thanks.
Oh, hi everybody. I've also had an experience like you, Caron, where I went to get my eyebrows done and she said, would I like to get my sideburns done? I didn't know I had sideburns. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about the Proverbs 31 woman. So this woman is inspiring, but she's also intimidating, isn't she? She's hardworking, she cares for others, she serves her servants, she's got concern for the poor, she's wise in handling money. Hello. She's respected by her husband and kids, which is amazing. And she fears God. And she's the whole package. And so I've been intimidated by her in the past, but I love her attitude about future and ageing. And she says, and what I've found most inspiring about her is Proverbs 31, verse 25. And it says, she's clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. And she's got a great attitude about ageing. One commentary described it as a joyful confidence about the future, and I loved that example. Well, let me just be honest, I haven't had a lot of joy or a lot of confidence about ageing. So about 10 years ago, I had an accident at work. I'm a chef, and I injured my arm, and I was in and out of hospital, and just the drama of that, metal plates in, metal plates out, and the pain, and I had to retire from working. And I loved my job, and Scott's like, why don't you just enjoy it? You're getting ACC money every week, just have a good time. And I was like, well, I just miss working, and I just kind of didn't want to do nothing particularly, wasn't encouraging. And then I got depressed, and there's a whole story with that, where you guys know you get depressed, and one of the things I put on 25 kilos, and was just, didn't want to get out of bed, the whole package with being depressed. And then I had 5 immediate family members die, like Scott's dad and grandma, and my brother died of a heart attack at 52, and we just prayed, God, give us a year off. So we ended up having 5 in 6 years, because we prayed for a year off, having a family funeral. And so I thought, I'm going to do something about this loss, and I'm going to join a grief group, and I joined the grief group, then I went to another 9 funerals from the grief group, And they became great friends, but I went to all these funerals. I was like, and I had a funeral wardrobe, literally, a wardrobe I would wear to funerals. I look quite good at them, by the way. It was just a really challenging time, and I was ageing, and I was not working, and not kind of valued anywhere, and it was a really tough time. And we got new church leaders, and of course I got critical, and it was a whole story there of that situation. But my life was a little bit rubbish, actually, And I had to rebuild, and I decided, I'm going to stop living in my losses and worrying about everything that's gone wrong, because I really can do that in a fabulous way. And I had to decide, is this going to be my story? And I thought, no, I'm not going to end this way. I'm not going to end this way. And, as I thought too, the Proverbs 31 woman, it looks like everything went great, but I bet she had hard times. Of course she had hard times. So as I studied out laughter and laughing at the days to come, I thought about Sarah, and she was 90 in Genesis. You guys know the story. And she laughed when God was going to bless her with the child, with Isaac. She laughed. It was a cynical laugh. Oh, yeah, right, God, right. As if. But then in Genesis 21, verse 4, her laughter changed. And I love that about Sarah. And she said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And I think she had the laugh of joy and confidence and hope, and not the cynical one. As a young woman, I really loved studying the Bible with people, helping people to get to heaven, sharing the gospel, seeing people fall in love with God. And I went through that stage of, when all those things went wrong, and I refused to get involved. And I remember 3 years, I just wouldn't even, if I heard anyone was studying the Bible, I just went the other way, And I remember being at church one day, and Scott was standing beside a girl who was saying she wanted to study the Bible, and he says, oh, my wife will study with you. And I was furious. I was so angry. I went home, and I just probably in the car on the way home was probably Marianne says I'm a bit bossy. I was bossing him around about it, And I just studied with her, and she became a Christian. And it was a turning point for me, was just re-engaging in what I love to do. And I think that worked for me, was getting me back into life and back into not thinking I'm a has-been and I'm useless and blah, blah. And so, let me just think where I am. I'm trying to stay to the notes, Marianne, I'm trying. So Scott actually helped me to engage with what brought me joy, was helping people. And And you guys do, I don't know if you remember I'm sure you do, the K&N videos, and you see the video, and it's up on screen, and this really great person met this person, and then 35 members of their family got baptised, and then they're studying with the last one now. And I used to sit and watch them and think, I can't even get anyone to church, I can't even get anyone to come to church, I'm useless, And I'd get so discouraged watching them. They're supposed to encourage you, and I'd feel so stressed. I'd just get stressed out watching it. But a couple of years ago, and Sandre's my partner in the gospel there, in our group we had a mini kind of, K&M Kidogo moment where this girl, Chantelle, became a Christian. And Chantelle, I remember doing sin with her over Zoom on the lockdown. It was terrible, but, she's an amazing girl. And these people are all in their 30s, they're all cool, so it's amazing. But she met Stacey, and Stacey studied the Bible and became a Christian. And in one of Stacey's studies, and this is all within 2 years, in one of Stacey's studies, this girl called Scheuerle invited herself to study. So I turned up to study with Stacey, with probably Sandre there, and Scheuerle had invited herself. And so Scheuerle became a Christian. And then Chantelle, the first one, her husband got baptised. And then Scheuerle's, the third one, her husband got baptised. And then, incredible, and then Stacey's husband, who's not a Christian, comes all the time, and he's not ready, but he's coming. And then I'm studying with her mother. Stacey's mum came to visit from England, and we started studying, and I studied with her on Zoom, and she's in England. And then Chanel's parents came to visit from South Africa, and they started to study. And they got baptised last Sunday in South Africa. And I thought, we're having a mini K&M Kidogo moment in our group, We were so excited about that because we always feel like it happens to someone else. And I thought, Sandre, it happened to our group. We had a moment. So, I want to laugh at the days to come. I don't want to talk about all my losses and everything that's gone wrong. I don't want to live in that. And I'm going to keep working at that. I think we all do. But I just have a little bit of homework for you guys as I finish. Maybe ask your husband, your friend, your best friend, how am I aging? How am I doing? Am I joyful and am I confident about the future? And am I able to laugh at the days to come?
Hey everybody, I'm Marianne if you don't know me. So I'm 55 and I've been a Christian for 32 years and married for 29. And my story is that it was the chin that was getting waxed, but actually was putting wax all the way down here. It wasn't the sides, it was the full-on neck. So I was like, what? I actually can't believe that I've sort of got to that stage in my life where I've become one of those older women who, the Bible talks about in the book of Titus, because I think about the older women being like Robyn, Diane, they were the older women, the women in their 70s, but hey, we're all here because we're mature women. I really believe that God has given all of us a really special quality that he's refined in us over all the years that we've been Christians. And sometimes it's really embarrassing to acknowledge what that quality is, but it's a bit like when you go to an interview, what's your strength and what your weakness is, and it's just always so hard what is my strength? I know all my weaknesses, but yeah, I think it's really important to identify what that quality is that God has given you and to really own it. So without being prideful, I think the quality God's given me is to be an encourager. And I want us to look at a scripture in Proverbs 11:25. It says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." And I think once you've identified your quality, ask yourself, how generous am I in using that quality for God? Because I want us to really consider that word generous. I just want to share with you what I'm going through in my life and something recent and just how I'm trying to move forward through it. So Darren and I have become true empty nesters. So really recently, we've got twin boys that are 23. So they had moved out of home, but one's now moved to Perth and the other one's in the United States for a period of time. But recently we lost our family cat, so we're sitting on the couch. I was actually literally patting our cat of 16 years we had, and she was dying. And anyway, I just burst into tears, Darren burst into tears and said to each other, this is like an end of an era. Just felt like, just when you feel that sort of, it was like a sense of loss. And it might sound stupid to some of you, but I think you don't realise how big it is when your children actually go.
And then obviously amongst that, we run a business, and it's been very stressful, and so Darren was deciding just to downsize. We had to make someone redundant, and when you're a small team, that was hard. And Darren's been grieving the loss of his mum recently, and we have both our dads are in full-time care. So just grief, loss, end of an era. Okay, this is a time of real transition and change. What have I kind of achieved in the last 30 years, and what's the next year's going to look like for us? So we were sort of just, all this was coming to us with tears, and but what I do know how to do is to encourage. And so I just made a decision, I'm going to do that really generously. And even though my boys aren't in the church fellowship, sitting at church in Brisbane on Sunday, I literally look around and I look at the young men, and I think, I want to show you love like I have shown my boys. I want to have you for meals. I want to talk to you like I'm your mother, whether you like it or not. And even with the young women, the same, who don't have their mums in town, and just really thought, I want to be that mother figure, and I want to really encourage, and even the older women in the church, and share what I've learnt with them over the years. I think as we get older, it's really easy to be stingy and to be withdrawn. It's such a cool word, isn't it, stingy? I mean, none of us want to be known as being stingy. But we can withdraw from using our qualities that God has given us because we're worn down, or we just feel not included. It's all about the young people, or it's about the men. Like, what's there for me, and there's a great proverb, I'll just read it. It's Proverbs 23, verses 6 to 8. Do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy. Do not desire his delicacies. For he is like one who is inwardly calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. So convicting. And it makes me think about the poor widow in Mark 12, who, she put in everything. Her copper coins were everything. She was so generous with what she gave. And I think generosity is of the heart. It's not the amount of money you're going to give to someone, or you can't sort of measure it, but God knows how much you're giving from your heart. So just some practicals that I do, and obviously my quality is encouragement. Yours will be something different, but you do have a quality. I use... so for me, just being generous, just like even having someone round for a meal or making a meal, I try and make it a huge meal. I mean, I love food. So I want people to go away feeling like, they've just had a really good feast and they can't eat anymore. Or when I'm having a conversation with someone at church, even if it's just one conversation, to be really engaged and to have a rich and deep conversation with that person, be generous in that. To be able to give thoughtful gifts to somebody, not necessarily spend a lot of money, but to really think, what would that person love? Recently, I just bought an antique tin and filled it with homemade cookies and gave it to one of my girlfriends who I know loves those type of biscuits. And, just to try and be generous in a thoughtful way. And maybe having just generous prayers for people that we can say to each other in the fellowship, hey, I'm really praying for you about this, and consistently praying and not just kind of throwing it out there. So I just have a charge for you, like Anna, just something to go away and to really consider for yourselves. To have a conversation with someone close to you about how you can be generous with the qualities that God has given you so that you can serve God and serve his church. Amen. That's all.